Joining us now, Daphna Nachminovitch. You're a vice president with PETA, and we understand that you had a big win this week in the Senate Agriculture Committee. Senator Spruill in Virginia carried a bill on that PETA has pushed to prohibit tethering of animals in extreme weather. And Daphna, you had penned an op-ed on this a couple weeks ago in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Can you kind of give us some insight here into your bill and what happened?
Sure, absolutely. The bill just passed the full Senate with a vote of 33-7. It is a bill carried by Senator Spruill that will prohibit the tethering of dogs during inclement weather, meaning when the weather is 32 degrees or below, 85 degrees or above, or when the National Weather Service has issued a weather warning. And this is a bill that's sorely needed for dogs who spend their entire lives trapped at the end of a chain outdoors. Sadly, there are countless ones across the Commonwealth whose lives are spent eating, sleeping, and doing their business essentially in one patch of land. And we have found that current law is not sufficient in providing those dogs with the protection they so desperately need when hurricanes hit, when nor'easters hit. When we had the bomb cyclone last month, we were out, our field workers were out and found many dogs still trapped at the end of their tether with water frozen solid and so on. So this will provide animal control officers with clarity on allowing them to take decisive action in behalf of these dogs.
So this bill passed. It was sponsored by Senator Spruill from Chesapeake. It passed the Senate in Virginia. And I think, isn't there a complement bill from Delegate Orrick in the House?
So there is a bill that's in the House that recently passed the House Ag Committee and is headed to the full House that has been introduced by Delegate Orrick. That bill specifically allows authorities to legislate against tethering. It started out being a complete disaster, and it still isn't particularly good or helpful. But Delegate Orrick did remove the most harmful language that was in that bill, which would have prohibited localities from banning tethering altogether. And many localities in the Commonwealth have found that that is the most enforceable, effective way for them to regulate tethering. So actually in Portsmouth, where you are today, the city went from a 3-hour limit to a ban on unattended tethering, meaning that you cannot keep your dog tethered unless you're outside with your dog or your dog is within sight. And these are laws that are targeted at assisting dogs whose lives are spent outdoors on a tether. These are not laws that are directed at people whose animals are out for 5 minutes while they're mowing the lawn or what have you. So unfortunately, while Delegate Orrick's bill localities have already been doing what his bill purports to allow them to do, and no ordinance has ever been challenged. So in practical terms, his bill really will not translate into anything good for dogs. But Senator Spruill's bill will mean that during bad weather, dogs cannot be tethered out there. And I think one thing people don't realize is that when dogs are tethered outdoors, and that's how they spend their entire existence, they are in a great deal of danger when their tethers tangle. Even if they have food, water, and shelter, they can't reach it if they're tangled. And obviously during hurricanes, during bad weather, when it's snowing, people who are callous enough to keep their dogs outdoors 24/7 aren't rushing outside to check on their dogs. And so the period of time during which the dogs are unattended, every single second spells additional danger for that particular dog.
Daphna, why would someone have a dog and just chain them up in perpetuity? I mean, what would be the purpose of having it?
John, I ask myself that question every single day, and I've actually asked people while in the field. And, I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, if you don't want to have a dog as a member of the family, if you don't wish to have, an animal bring the joy to your family that they can, having a dog staked outside 24/7 in all weather is cruel. It is inhumane. It is unnatural. And it's sentencing a social pack animal to solitary confinement. A dog on a tether has no life at all. I mean, they really just watch life pass them by. And it's also a public safety issue because naturally, just as solitary confinement impacts human beings in a negative way. Dogs who are tethered 24/7 are 3 times more likely to become aggressive. So why people do this, I do not know, but it's become quite clear that it takes legislation to get them not to stop. So in the cities and Hampton Roads where we've worked to legislate against it, the number of calls about cruelty and neglect have dropped significantly.
So this is why you feel this is an issue for the Virginia state legislator rather than just having local ordinances.
Absolutely. I mean, local ordinances are great, and they can be more stringent than state law, but there are many, many dozens of localities in the Commonwealth that are not going to legislate on this issue for whatever reason. And so this is a really basic, common-sense way to address tethering in inclement weather. I think a lot of people, our legislators included, perhaps don't see these dogs when they're driving to work and home or when they're out. But if you look, you will see them, and they really are out there. I've had a mayor of a small town tell me, I never thought about these dogs until you brought this issue to my attention, and now I see that they're everywhere, and we have to do something about it. So we hope the state, that people call on their delegates to please vote yes on Senate Bill 872. It has wide bipartisan support. It is being carried by Senator Spruill, but it has many co-sponsors on both sides of the aisle.
Well, look, I think it's a good bill. It's one that we should get behind. And again, why you would have a pet, a dog, and just, chain them up the whole time and, not let them in the house, not spend any time with them, not play with them. I mean, it's just, I don't know why you would have it. What the object is. We have at home, we don't have a dog. We have a cat. It's my cat, Sammy, the family cat, Sammy the cat. And this cat is so spoiled. This cat takes over the house. We open the windows in the summer so we can, as he wants to look out the window, the air conditioner's on. I don't know how much money that cost me. It's ridiculous. The other day, yesterday, I went to buy him balloons because he likes to play with the balloons and then pop them. And I'm going in, and my neighbor was like, oh, is it somebody's birthday? Is it Ann's birthday or something? I'm like, no, this is for Sammy, the cat. She's like, you have to be kidding me. I'm like, yeah, I'm sick. He likes to play with the balloons. She said, I have seen people spoil their pets, but I've never seen that. I'm like, well, I buy him balloons. So that's it. But why people would chain up a dog, I have absolutely no idea. It's just gross. And tell me, Daphne from PETA, what do you hope our listeners will take away from this discussion?
Well, what I'm really hoping is that listeners will contact their delegate, especially if their delegate is serving on the House Ag subcommittee. There are 8 delegates on that subcommittee, and that's where this bill is going next. That particular subcommittee killed without much ado its companion in the House, which was House Bill 646. That bill, so Senator Spruill has worked very hard to make some concessions and has reached compromises. So Senate Bill 872 currently has no opposition, and so we are very much hoping that the delegates who killed its companion will see that compromises have been made and that this bill is a straightforward inclement weather bill, and it desperately needs to pass for the welfare of dogs.
Why did the Republican-controlled House nail its counterpart in the House?
I'm sorry, I missed.
Why did Republicans in the House of Delegates, why did they backseat the complement to Spruill's bill?
Well, at the time, that bill had some additional measures that would have restricted tethering overnight, as well as when there is no one on the property, which frankly is really quite important, but they took great exception to that. I think there were some concerns that this would somehow impact hunting, which it won't, because, obviously
That's
this
ridiculous.
is directed at dogs who exist at the end of a tether.
That's ridiculous.
And so it really wasn't. It wasn't sensible.
So
but that's what happened.
Republicans killed it in the House because it was too much government involvement, and so you have this group of Tea Party conservatives down there that are going to kill anything that appears to be government overreach, whether it's good or bad. Except they love voting for red light cameras, and now they're trying to vote for speed traps. So they love voting for that. Kind of amazing, right? Tether the dogs, but let's have red light cameras on every single corner, so we can nail everybody. Now they're talking about putting cameras on stop signs, right? And then there's another bill to have speeding traps. So like if there's a 55 zone and you're going 63, you get a speeding ticket. Doesn't go on your record, but you got to pay a fine or they'll impound your car, right? They'll all back that, but they don't want to back a bill to stop you from abusing dogs, right? Unbelievable. Daphna, I'm out of time. I mean, look, I just tell the truth, right? I mean, I commend your bill, Senate Bill 872, and I commend Senator Spruill for carrying it. And this, cruelty to animals like that is just horrible. I just can't see why anybody would be opposed to that. If you want to chain your dog up, don't have a dog, for heaven's sake. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. I'm out of time. Daphna from PETA, thank you.
Thank you, John, so much for having me on.
You got it.